At KSMO Radio, your hometown radio station, we welcome you to Wednesday, and it is a pretty nice sunny day now. The clouds kind of moved out, but it's really cold out there. So if you're going to get out that way, I think 8 degrees, what I saw last, that's kind of rough. We do have a little bit of a breeze out there, but not too much. Wind chill right now, setting at about 6, so a little cool out there this morning. Mr. Kevin Kreider's with us today. Hello, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Kind of like seeing you a lot.
Yeah,
in the last couple of months.
Regular occurrence.
Well, that's all right. Anyway, Mr. Kreider is working with the Department of Conservation and the Dent County Extension. I should just say the extension because it's not just Dent County, in eradicating feral hogs. And everybody continues to, I don't say everybody. I shouldn't say that. Very, very bad way. A lot of people continue to say, why are we still doing this? You guys have been at it for 5 years. I'm sure you've gotten rid of most, if not all, the hogs, and that's just not true.
Well, I have to agree. They're still here. If we go back to 2025, which just ended, our numbers actually increased on our feral hog take off the landscape last year. We went up to just about 6,100 hogs we took off the landscape with our staff. You compare that to 2024 numbers, we took 5,105 off the landscape, so a slight increase again. So it seems like every other year we have a slight bump, then we go back down a little further, and then another slight bump. So not a lot, but we did have that slight increase. So they're still out there. We still have a job to do. We still have people out there getting it done.
Feral hogs repopulate quickly, don't they?
Yeah, 2 litters a year, every 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days. They're ready for another litter, so gestation period.
So you go in and do a lot of work on a property, you eradicate 20 hogs, and they can pretty well put that all back in. Basically 6 months' time, you can see it again, or even more.
Yeah, and that's why when we talk about this stuff, we have to look this in the face and say, if we didn't have people out there dealing with this, who's going to deal with it? What would happen if we didn't have a staff out there trying to work on this?
We were just kind of talking about that before we came on the air, and really, where would we be if we had not even started to try and take on the feral hog situation? I'll leave it at that. When we start seeing all this damage on land, my gosh, Kevin, where would it be now?
I can only guess and imagine what that might look like, but I can say when I was trapping back in 2020, before I changed over to this position in 21, I was putting easily 200 miles a day on my vehicle trying to get to different people's properties to look at damage, to get people help that they needed, and that was all the folks that we were working with. And at that time, we had a lot less folks on the ground, so we were really busy then. It was farm to farm to farm. I had very, very little time to get to federal ground or state ground to work. I did do that some, but a lot of my calls for service were helping people that had private property that had damage, so that was the priority.
And those areas with private property, you still do not go on because you don't have permission unless the homeowner grants you and kind of goes into a partnership with you guys to take care of this. But that still becomes a problem for those little isolated islands out there that these hogs can go to. Yeah,
that's still an issue that we're trying to address, by getting other folks to partner with us and give us access to their property if there might be hogs on that property. Because you're right, essentially, say if someone had 100 acres and they have a sounder or even just a sow and a boar on there that's going to turn into a sounder once they have pigs. If we don't deal with that, that's a sanctuary. You can't get around that. That turns into a sanctuary, and there's no way to deal with that unless you actually either going to do it yourself and go out there and take care of it, or get us involved and get it done. So there's a couple ways you can do it for sure, no doubt about that. But we have the time, we have the staff, and a lot of folks don't have the time, or they have, especially if they have a big property and they have a cattle operation or something else going on and they got a full-time job, they don't have the time to mess with that. I've talked to so many people that say exactly that. Say, Kevin, I don't have time to mess with these feral pigs. Well, that's why we're here. We can come in and take care of that, and it's free service. You're a taxpayer. You're already taking care of your bill on that side of the fence, so we come in and do it for you.
And even though, a lot of people think, well, they can run off in the national forest and get the same kind of protection. That's not necessarily true, but there are, unfortunately, in our national forests, there are some sanctuaries for them because there's still some little areas of private property that people have had willed over to them over the years. That somebody in their family came here in 1788 or whatever, got that property. It's theirs, but really, it's still not just where you guys can just go anywhere you want to and take on these hogs.
Right, and pigs are smart. I grew up in Shannon County, and I'd put a mature pig up against the same intelligence level of a mature whitetail buck. I mean, and they can get trap shy. So if you miss one on a trap, they see a trap again, they won't come to it, they won't go under it, and that takes us back into trying to find them then with a drone and a thermal rifle, to take them out that way. So you have to give them the due credit that they have for being an intelligent animal out there on the landscape.
And right now, still, most of the feral hogs that are taken are still through the trapping method the Conservation Department uses, where they try and get a cluster of them.
Yeah, like I said, last year, 2025, we took about 6,100 off the landscape, and of those 6,100, most were with the trap, but we did take 2,700 with the helicopter, and that was significant. I think that's the most we've ever taken with the helicopter. I know a lot of folks don't realize that helicopter only flies from December to March, so we have it for that limited
4 months.
that limited amount of time, because we wait for the canopy cover to come off, all the leaves come off, and that's when we can see all the way to the ground, and we get that ship in here from Tennessee's where it comes from. It's a USDA bird, and we keep it for that short amount of time, and that's not bad work activity for that period of time. 2,700 feral hogs taken off the landscape out of 6,000.
Right, but you have a new weapon this year.
We have an additional piece of equipment. This is new information for your listeners. We have an additional helicopter now. It's a FLIR helicopter, as forward-looking infrared. So it's got a FLIR equipment on that, and that is a game changer, because it'll be up at about 1,000 feet AGL, above ground level, and it'll be like in an overwatch position with the other gunship bird that we're using down low for the actual aerial gunnery. What that FLIR can do is it can see a lot further, and it's a much higher grade equipment than like what we'd have on a drone. So we might see a group of 2 or 3 hogs with that ship just kind of flying around up above the gunnery ship down low, and they can say, hey, you got 10 pigs 2 miles east of you. They can fly straight to it, take those out, and they say that we've got 5 3 miles south of you, and they'll fly straight to that. So that's kind of a game changer too, and that's a new thing this year.
Well, something new we had this year is snow. We really have not had a lot of areas, or even very many days of snow in the last 5 years, and we got plenty of it this time. And of course, I was asking Kevin before we came on the air, does the snow help you find the hogs? Because obviously the hogs will show heat, but also it's white and the hogs are not.
Yeah, and I will be very curious to hear the numbers after this snow melts, because I'm thinking this is probably going to help us quite a bit. Anytime we get snow on the ground, that makes the job much easier for the guys flying, because as you said, they can see that movement much easier with that white background. So I'll be curious to see if these numbers jump up a little bit. I know last time I checked the numbers from January of this year, just 1st of January this month, I think we were probably at 900 plus just from January 1st with the helicopter. So I'll see where those numbers are at after the snow melts, and I'm going to kind of expect to see the numbers kind of creep up quite a bit with the snowfall.
Well, this snow's not going anywhere for about another couple of weeks, I would think. We really don't have any extraordinarily warm days in the forecast coming up. It's going to hover right around freezing today. Like this morning, we actually went back down to 6 degrees, 7 degrees, 8 degrees for a low in many areas today. I don't think Salem got that low. I think they got down to 8. But still, if you've got that snow on the ground and it hovers around for 2 more weeks, that's just more fodder for the taking, right? Yeah,
it's going to be good for us, because again, visual acuity is what we're kind of dependent upon when we're out there flying around, and of course we've got the FLIR bird now too flying with us, but being able to see all the way to the ground with that snowpack, it's going to help.
More the merrier, right?
Yeah.
More the merrier. Let's talk. I know when we talked here just a couple months back, we did talk a little bit about the areas that feral hogs are still affecting. And because of the efforts of yourself and other people like you, the feral hogs are still pretty much still south of I-70, are they not?
South of I-44.
Oh, still all 44. Okay.
Yep.
I thought we had a few up in Marys County or something. Nothing?
No.
Well, good. Keep them out of there.
Yep. I-44 has always kind of been the line. We've had a few pop up just north of 44. Now, if you go further west into west central Missouri, we had some over around Stockton Lake. So Clinton area that we had some over there, but now southwest Missouri is clear. We don't have any sounders that I'm aware of in southwest Missouri. So when I say southwest, think Ava all the way over to Springfield, up to Stockton Lake. We might have a boar here and there, but there are no sounder groups that we're aware of currently. Now that could change because we do have to deal with sometimes elite releases of feral swine on the landscape by people. That is a real thing. So we'll see if that changes. But right now, we're not dealing with anything over there, and that's why we're trying to get to that same level of elimination over here in south central and southeast Missouri too. But this has always been kind of the core area is southeast and south central Missouri of feral swine activity. So we'll see what happens. But right now, southwest Missouri is looking really good.
So we talked last time. We also talked. You said hogs are kind of homebodies. They don't like to venture too far from where they're born. They're more comfortable in that area. So migration, when you look at it, if that is true, would be very slow.
Yeah, it's not really a real thing. I mean, 5 miles is the home range of a sow. Now, a boar that gets separated from a sounder, so say we eliminate a sounder in his area and we miss him, he will start ranging looking for another sounder, another group of females. So in that case, we've tracked a boar that we put a collar on. We call him a Judas pig, Judas boar. We'll take one small male boar, a male pig out of a group. We eliminate the rest and we'll leave one alive, and we'll put a collar on him because he'll help lead us to another group that we might have missed. And we've tracked those for upwards of 40 miles. When they'll start searching out another group of pigs. So that could happen with a boar. With females, with a family group, not really going to happen. They don't have a need to travel that far.
Because we know Arkansas has feral hog problem as well.
Right. Yep.
And they're not taking care of it quite the same way that Missouri is. But you said that they were starting to do some things last year?
Yeah, I mean, Arkansas and the other states, they have the same USDA resources. It's just they may not have the same funding levels. They may not have the same model that we're using here. Our plan is eradication. I mean, Missouri is kind of unique in that aspect, and our partnerships are a big part of that. We have around 18 different agencies that we work with, and the three that are kind of the boots on the ground are USDA, APHIS, Animal Plant Health Inspection Services, Wildlife Service, and then Missouri Department of Conservation. And, of course, I work for MU Extension on the education side. So we have those three initial agencies that kind of are doing the boots on the ground. But then the other partners are the folks that are giving us access to their properties like state parks, DNR, Army Corps of Engineers, Forest Service, things like that. So we have a lot of folks we're working with. And, of course, we have non-governmental organizations, too, NGOs, like Pioneer Forest and some other private landowners that are large-size owners, too, plus the small property owners.
But the secret to getting these hogs is communication. You have to hear from the landowners. They have to contact you and say, hey, I've got a group, or I saw, or I've got the damage right here, and they can document the damage. And then you can go out and assess, correct? That's
it. I mean, this whole thing is called the Missouri Feral Hog Elimination Partnership, and that partnership word is really the key because 93% of Missouri is privately owned. So if somebody has property with pigs on it, obviously we'd love to hear from those folks and be able to talk about how we can help to eliminate those feral swine off the landscape. But if we don't hear about it, obviously, yeah, we can't do anything to help if that's the case.
It seems, so obvious to people if this would happen, but I'm going to just be the devil's advocate. Sometimes they might say, well, how would I know if I had a feral hog problem? Trust me, you'll know when you go out and see your land virtually tore up. But there's a video you guys have, a YouTube video, correct?
Yeah, it's USDA produced, and it's called Feral Swine in America, Missouri, Chapter 7. So anybody can go onto YouTube and look at that. And I think it's pretty well done. It's only 7 minutes.
Yeah, it's not long.
And it tells the story of
kind of shows what the damage looks like.
Yeah, it's got some landowners in there that we've worked with and partnered with, and it talks about the program and some of the things that we've had to go through to get where we're at over the years. So, yeah, I would encourage anybody that's got questions. If you want to start with that video, they'll answer a lot of questions. And, of course, we're always available as a resource, too, to discuss any questions people have.
if you're hearing this and you're not a partner, you can become one. You can just get in touch with Kevin and they can help you out, sign the papers. But it's not a lifelong, forever, ever thing if you don't want it to be, correct?
No. We're there as long as you want us to be there. And if you want us to work with you on your property, but you want us to leave during deer season, we leave during deer season. If you want us to leave during turkey season, we leave the property during turkey season. That's completely up to the landowner. So that is definitely available. Sometimes people want us to just use aircraft only, just fly the property with drones and the helicopter. Some people want us to do trapping only and no aircraft. So it's really up to the landowner. We can work out and tailor a custom plan to anybody with a property that wants to work with us to remove feral swine.
So basically, the landowner sets the parameters for which you can work.
Exactly.
That sounds kind of easy.
Yeah, and they can, if they decide they want to stop working with us, they can do that. There's no requirement to keep them looped into that contract. They can walk away from it anytime they want to.
So how would somebody become a partner?
Just contact me at the extension office, and that's all they've got to do.
573-729-3196.
Yep.
And then, of course, you're not always sitting in the office with a hot cup of coffee.
No. It's interesting you said that.
Now you're sitting with a nice
Yep.
lukewarm cup of coffee. But
yeah, in this job, I've got to say it's pretty good,
Yeah.
pretty good job. But I will say that a lot of my stuff is about education. A lot of the high schools, that's where you'll find me at conferences, Cattlemen's Association, Farm Bureau, things like that, county commissioners. Just talking about the updates we're discussing right now and the issues that come with feral swine on the landscape and what kind of problems that brings to us here in the Ozarks. But in reality, we've got to acknowledge that this is a real issue that has real consequences. And I've had this discussion with many people. If we're not taking care of this and dealing with it, who's going to do it? That's really a legitimate question because we do have folks that are opposed to us removing feral swine off the landscape because they want to go out and hunt them for sport and things like that. That's not the answer. That's not going to get it done. We've got to be mature about our acknowledging that we've got to deal with this head on as an issue for people that are landowners, especially agriculture producers, because we've talked about this before, but a sounder of hogs can destroy a hayfield overnight. And we've got producers that are not necessarily cattle producers, but they have row crops.
Right.
We've got those in the Ozarks too, and sounders love to get into row crop operations and eat everything in the field you just planted. So we've got to acknowledge we have a vested interest in removing these feral swine because people will pay an economic price that are out there as producers if we don't deal with the issue.
so, as you mentioned, there is opposition. So let me be clear. There will be some misinformation put out there, especially on social media, about feral hog eradication, is there not?
Yes, yeah. There are places out there that people can find, and you can read about some of different people's opinions about what we do and how people are opposed to it, and you'll have to figure it out for yourself. But we are here to answer questions from people that want to know what we do and why we do what we do. If there are questions or confusion about it, but understand there are people that don't want feral swine to go away. There are people out there that want to keep them for sport hunting. I've had that told to me more than once. I had one gentleman say, well, why don't you let us hunt them from January to April when there's nothing else to hunt? We don't want you to bother the feral pigs. Leave them on the landscape. And I'm like, do you not? My response was, do you not understand there are people suffering damages from these animals? And they're an invasive species.
But they're not suffering damages from them.
Yeah, this particular individual didn't have any agriculture ground because I asked the question, and he just wanted to hunt them for sport, for fun.
Do you find that some of those people who want to hunt them are like from the bigger cities or from out of the area just want to come down and do some hunting? Or do you find, obviously there are some landowners out there that want to hunt them on their own property?
The people I've talked to that want to keep them are from right here locally in
Really?
the Ozarks. Yeah,
Wow.
They're not from St. Louis. They're not from Kansas City. They're from right here. So,
Well, obviously they haven't done a lot of damage to their property. Or have you had somebody, you're out in the field all the time, have you had somebody that said, absolutely not, you're not coming on my property, and all of a sudden feral hogs come on and just do tremendous damage to their property, and all of a sudden they change their mind?
yeah, we've had people that have had that exact situation where they were not agreeable, and this was 5 years ago, to what this program is. And, of course, it was new then. And guess what? We ended up partnering with those folks. got rid of the feral swine on their property, and this was the one I was thinking of specifically is a row crop operation and a cattle operation, this particular property, and now they're one of our biggest supporters. And they were against us initially because they didn't think this would work. But now they are very much in support of what we do without naming any names or counties. But we have had that exact circumstance more than once that happened where they were opposed to it and didn't think it would work, and now they're completely behind us.
So, statistic-wise, and you've given us some statistics here about especially Southwest Missouri, has there ever been a map put together by the Conservation Department where this was feral hog infested in 2020? Today, you might have a couple little dots there, and then where it is here. Is there a map available like that so people can take a look?
Yes. Yeah, we've got one, and it starts in 2016. It shows the feral swine occupation of the landscape across the watersheds of southern Missouri. And we've got an updated version from last year. It shows where they're at now. 2 different color codes. We've got blue and red. Red is where they're currently at. So if we were to be looking at that right now, I could point to it and you could see it and say, look, we had a lot of pigs in southern Missouri. Now they're just right here in south central and southeast Missouri, where they used to be scattered all across the southern part of the state. So we do have that.
So with that data that you're getting, it helps these helicopters. It helps the trapping, and then you kind of have an idea where you expect to see some damage. Do you not?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, we already have an idea before we start that we have pigs in certain areas. Of course, we have our trapping staff on the ground all the time, and they've got their cameras out there, and they've got bait sites, and they already kind of have an idea of where the pigs are at because we've got around 40 people on the ground that are out there working all the time. So they coordinate with the aerial planning staff for the aerial operations. They talk and communicate and say, okay, here's where we're seeing activity. And then away they go. They start working that area with the drones and the new FLIR ship, and they say, yeah, here's a bunch, here's 4, here's 1, here's 10. And they eliminate them as soon as they find them. So that's where we're at right now. Now, I will go back to one thing you said a few minutes ago about the areas that we cover here in southern Missouri. We had 4 people in the educator role. We had 1 employee that left and went back to another position at another natural resource management agency. So we have 3 educators now for MU Extension. So I think that gives us 9 counties apiece for the 3 of us that are left. So that's 27 counties that we're covering feral swine. No problem. Yeah, so we're busy, but we're not. I wouldn't make it sound like we're just going call to call to call like when I was in law enforcement. But yeah, we stay busy. With 9 counties apiece. With
9 counties, when you start looking at say a county like Dent County or Iron County. Iron County is kind of small, but it's got a big, I'll kind of call it an L county because it has a big shape like that. But you have hills, you have to go on county roads. None of these are direct highways to where you need to go. And it does take you time to get from, I would say, the end of one part of Dent County to the other, and the other in Dent County is 6 hours. If you try and drive it on county roads, there's just no fast way to get there.
Yeah, if I were to traverse my entire area, I would start basically in Richland, up in Pulaski County, and go down to Donovan. And everything in between is mine. So that's a straight line. You can imagine how many hours I'd be on the road.
Cover that one day, right?
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, that will never happen. That will never happen. I want to go back to a little bit of the trapping, and I think this also becomes kind of a misconception. If people say they see some damage of a feral hog and they call on you guys, and I want you to come out and get the trap. Great, that's fantastic. They expect you to be there the next day and eradicate the hogs within about a week. How long did it take a trapping operation? Obviously, you got to do your due diligence and making sure that yes, this area is going to be getting infiltrated, and yes, we want to maximize our take. So, how does the guys go about doing that?
Yeah, realistically, if we get a phone call today, they call me or the trapper, whichever one they get in touch with. If I get the call, I turn right around and contact the trapper in that area and the strike team leader for that area and let them know, hey, got someone with hog damage in this location. And then either we will both go out there, I'll go out there, the trapper will go out there, elimination specialist, whatever the case may be, within 48 hours. So once we get the phone call, we've got 48 hours to get to the location, meet with the landowner, and start figuring things out. So what that entails is we get out there, we're going to probably do a quick assessment of the property, look at the damage that the owner has found, and maybe do a quick scout of the property, depending on how big it is, or come back in a few more days and do a really thorough scouting, either with a drone or scouting it by walking it or with a UTV, and put up some cameras and bait. That's the initial. We get the cameras up with bait and come back in a few days, see what we've got on camera. And a lot of these cameras that we have now are the hog eyes, so we can get the pictures right to our cell phone. They're cell phone cameras. So that makes it a lot easier, and we don't have to worry about actually driving back to the site, contaminating it with scent, things like that. Any outdoorsman out there listening knows what I'm talking about. We don't want to get out there and put a bunch of scent on the ground and run them off and scare them from smelling humans, but having the hog eye camera is kind of a game changer too. But anyway, if we see 10 hogs come into our camera on the cell phone, okay, all I got to do is go put more bait out. So I don't necessarily have to go mess with the camera. I can just go put bait out in front of the camera, continue to watch that, see if it stays at 10. The worst thing I could do is think I've only got 10, and then I set the trap up to catch 10, and there's actually 20. The other group was somewhere else, and then they blended together, and then I missed 10 pigs and make them trap shy. So we wait at least a few weeks once we get that camera up and the bait, just to make sure we're not missing any pigs on, we call it an inventory, because we want to inventory the number of pigs coming into the trap site.
Maximize your take.
Exactly. And we don't want to educate pigs by missing them, by dropping the trap too soon, and then when the other pigs walk up and say, oh, my friends got caught. Because now they're going to be like, I'm not getting underneath that thing. So we have to be aware of things like that. But usually, we're thinking, what I saw as a trapper about a month, maybe longer, depending on how educated the pigs are.
So I just want people to get a realistic idea, because I think sometimes people, and especially in today's world, it's immediate. Oh, if I call them, they should be here tomorrow, and they probably will be there tomorrow, but they're not going to go catch your hogs tomorrow.
Right.
Because you have to do your due diligence, and again, you have to make sure that they're not through that area. They may be moved on.
Yeah.
You put the cameras out, you don't see another one.
Yeah, because they do have a range, and if they run out of food where they're at initially and they do damage and they move on, they might be 2 miles away. They might be 3 miles away. But home range is around usually 5 miles. But the other thing I'll say about working with landowners is that if you are a landowner and you have a neighbor that is an absentee landowner that may live out of state and they have 100 acres next to you and you've got problems, well, they may be living on that 100 acres next door most of the time because nobody's there. Tell that absentee landowner, if you have their contact information, that we're here and available, because a lot of times we have trouble contacting those folks because they don't have we can't find a phone number for them or a good address. Now, we do have access to all the same resources everybody else has, and I can usually locate folks, but every now and then I'll run into a property I cannot locate an out-of-state landowner. So if you do have that information and you have hogs in your area, you might tell your neighbor that, hey, you're in Illinois or you're in Indiana, got 200 acres down here in the Ozarks. Pass our information on to those folks if you have their contact info, just in case they want assistance. I just had this happen last week where we had a guy in Illinois that wanted help, and we were able to find him, but that doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah, and the thing is too, a lot of those people who might be out of state landowners, say they're up in New England, who have no idea about feral hog issues. And they don't see a big deal. It's my 200 acres. Yeah, but you've got a whole bunch of hogs ripping it up. Well, why would they rip up my property? Well, they don't ask your permission. That's one thing. They just kind of come on and do it. But I can see that being a problem. So if you do know of people that live next to you, that property is owned, and maybe it's a second, third generation down, that they may not be aware of feral hog issues, please let them know. And again, have them go take a look at that video. And if you can take snapshots or get a picture on your phone of maybe damage on their property, or if you see hogs on their property, let them know. And let them know there is a way to eradicate that. I was going to, I had a question in mind, and I want to make sure I get this asked properly. But is there a threat of any diseases coming from feral hogs?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, I'll say this to kind of caveat what my response is going to be, but a lot of people do and have eaten feral swine over the years. I get that. I understand that. People have destroyed feral swine and eaten them as a game animal. I understand that. But yes, they carry up to about 40 different diseases. People can eat them and maybe not get sick. But the issue that people are forgetting about,
if cooked properly,
the problem is that people will ask me that same question out there in the landscape, and like you said, if they're cooked properly, but they want to know why we don't give away the meat, like we destroy 10 pigs in a sounder. Well, think about middle of July and the temperature, August, the temperature. I'm out there by myself. Who's going to come out there and skin 10 pigs in August
Oh yeah.
and not how's the meat not going to spoil? Are we going to buy refrigerator trucks next for 10 pigs?
Wow, you guys are really good.
I mean, are we going to spend that kind of taxpayer
Yeah.
dollars on? I mean, I hear these questions and I'm thinking you've got to think this out logistically on would this ever work? No, it would never work. You'd have to spend so much more money than what you could buy it for at the store.
How would you get a refrigerator truck out there?
How would you get it out there in the middle of nowhere? I mean, I had a UTV. I could barely get into some of these places. And if I've got 20 pigs in a pen that I just destroyed and they're big pigs, how am I going to even load them onto the UTV by myself unless you want to hire a whole bunch more staff and a bunch of refrigerator trucks? Coolers aren't going to fit on the UTV
God,
with the dead pigs. No. So you have to think this through logistically. That is not even a feasible thing to consider, and it's a diminishing return on investment. On the ROI, you have a resource that's going away. I mean, we've shown consistently since 2020 their populations that we take off the landscape are going down. We had destroyed 12,600 pigs in 2020. In 2025, we destroyed 6,100. That's half. So in that period of time, we've cut the number that we've taken off the landscape into half of what it was. So again, the people that want to use these for meat, disease vector is obviously a concern, yes. But again, we have to think about logistically as taxpayers, do we want to spend money on something that's not going to be a significant amount of meat anyway for a food source? Plus, then you have to talk about the disease issues. You have to talk about USDA laws,
Yes.
where you can't take things into a processor that's not a wild animal, it's a feral animal that was domesticated at one time, and now it's a feral animal. It's not like a white-tailed deer that's always been a wild animal. Now, if you went back way, way, way back there in Europe, yeah, they were wild in Europe and Eurasian boar and stuff, but we have to be realistic about this. I mean, the disease vector is obviously an issue, but a lot of folks aren't worried about that. But we are concerned about it from the perspective of liability. If I destroyed 10 pigs as a trapper and you came and took 2 of them on public land, and then you got brucellosis, which can be a serious disease, that's a liability issue for us as a partnership to let someone take those. Now, on private land, you can do whatever you want. If we destroy pigs for you on private property, that's your option if you want to process those and eat those. So we're not saying people can't do it, especially on private land. It's just on public land we can't legally do it because it's a liability issue for us.
And the thing also I was talking about with diseases, though, is passing them on to other animals. And there is the possibility of that, though, too.
That's the other part of this that people should reasonably understand is that, there is an option that, hey, they could pass pseudorabies on to a dog. They could pass brucellosis to a dog. They could pass it to us. They could pass it to cattle. Now, out west, in the Rocky Mountain region, I lived out there for many years. There's a real issue with brucellosis in bison and cattle because brucellosis can communicate between the species, just like no different than pigs here could communicate brucellosis to cattle, especially if they're not vaxxed. So, you can talk to a veterinarian about that stuff and get down in the weeds on the science behind it. I'm just telling you the generics of it, that it could happen, the what-if piece of this, right? What if we were to get some of our cattle infected with brucellosis? Those cattle then have to go to slaughter. That person's out of the business.
Right.
So there's an economic impact that could happen. We're not saying it's a significant possibility, but there's that what-if risk. What if they were to get brucellosis from feral swine?
It's obvious that we have done a great job in reducing these numbers, but there's still a challenge in front of us, is there not?
Yeah, just because of their, the gestation rate for feral swine is, like I said earlier, 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days. So that's basically 2 litters per year for a feral sow. And if she has, roughly 5 to 12 piglets in that litter twice a year, I mean, she could significantly increase the population in an area pretty quickly. So if nobody's dealing with that, and that's what I keep harping on, who's going to do it? You go out and hunt them and you kill 1 or 2 or 3 one weekend a month. When you go decide I want to go hog hunting or something on private property, or maybe even try to take a chance and do it on the government when you're not supposed to, that's not going to help.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just simply not going to help anybody. It's just somebody out there having fun. They're not doing anything to actually deal with the problem. We've got a staff of 40 people. I mean, that equates out to almost 12,000 work days in a year if you run the numbers out, and a lot of man hours. So they're out there actually doing the work to get it done. So that's the efficient way to do it.
And I think one of the things I wanted to bring out, and I think we talked about this last time, and I just want to bring it out again because I had read somewhere where somebody actually came across a nest of feral hogs. And feral hog mamas are not nice. Anyway, yeah, you don't want to do that. And if you see feral hogs in your property, don't go out there. I mean, you're not going to benefit any which way, shape, or form by going out there. Usually, if they smell humans, they'll go away.
Yeah, they don't. They're like any wild animal. I mean, they have a great nose, just like a deer does. They don't want any contact with humans either. They're going to try to run away from you and get away. But they do have, they're an omnivore. They'll eat anything. But if there was an opportunity for one to get, I've heard stories about people getting chased by them, and that could happen. I know some folks here locally that have had that happen to them, where one big boar or big sow got after them. But generally, they're going to go the other direction. Unless
they have youngins.
Yes.
Then they're going to protect them to the
right.
death.
Yeah. So that's a very good point. I want to go back real quick to talking about the helicopter stuff. A lot of times people, they kind of get some misinformation about the helicopter and thinking that it scatters pigs. It doesn't really do that. I mean, if you think about pigs and their behavior, and I did trap them for a long time before I took this position, they are very social animals. They have a hierarchy, and they like to be together. They are a family unit. Generally, when you see a sounder, they're probably all related to some level. And when we use the helicopter, and this has been shown time and time again, you can watch videos on it, they are like birds in a flock. They will run line abreast of the matriarchal sow. They'll be on left and right side of her when the helicopter's above them, or they'll be in single file behind the matriarchal sow. So they don't just scatter to the cardinal points of the compass. They go where Mama Sow goes. So wherever she goes, they go with her. And so I just want to clarify that, because I hear this and see it on social media all the time about how the helicopter just scatters them worse than anything else. That's just simply not true. That's not good information. That's misinformation. So I want to make sure I clarify that for the listeners out there, that the helicopter does not scatter the pigs. Right. I mean, and they all try to stay together. That's just their social structure.
We talked about that map that shows eradication and how well it's doing. Is that map accessible to the public?
We should have that, if I remember correctly, on our website up at MU. So if you go into the MU website and go into the natural resources page, you should be able to find that. I think we've got it listed there.
I know the Department of Conservation had removed their deer totals, their hunting totals, I think until this guy from a radio station contacted them and said, "Where is it?" And they actually said, "We don't know."
Interesting.
And because all of a sudden after last year it was gone.
Okay.
Oh, just the totals. Not that they aren't still having the hunting seasons, but the totals by county, they were all gone. And I had talked to Dave Ingram about it, and I said, "It's not there. It's no longer there." I even contacted them, and they did get back to me. And they said, "We really don't know where it went." And
I will check on that.
But I think they got it back up. So
yeah.
I think when the deer season ended, they had the totals back up.
Sure.
But I don't think nobody goes and looks.
Yeah, I'll check and see if we have that map on the eradication. It's 2016 to 2024 was our last map that we put together. And you can see a big change in the map colors going from blue to red, and how much smaller it is on the red side now.
But it will make you aware, if you have property in that area where it's still a little bit on the red side, you might be getting some feral hogs in your area. Just kind of keep that in mind. You might want to be on the lookout. So we also want to remind people, too, that you need to be due diligent and checking your own property.
Yeah, get out there and take a UTV ride or walk the ground and look around, see what you see. I mean, you never know, because they could be pushed in there from another area. Maybe somebody was hunting them, and they pushed them over, or maybe their food sources got slim where they were at, and so they kind of roamed around and found your spot and are now basically looking at your ground as a new food source. You just never know when they could move in. And then we do have to face the fact, like we talked about before, that sometimes a new group might get released. Somebody picked up 10 pigs from a buying station in Texas, brought them up here and turned them loose. We have proof there's 14 different genetic subsets in Missouri, and those are from the DNA ear tests that we do on these destroyed pigs that we have. And we've got them primarily out of Texas. We've got some that are out of other states too, Oklahoma, but Texas is the primary culprit that we get them from, and they don't walk here from Texas. That just doesn't happen. People have brought them here and turned them loose.
And Texas has a feral hog problem too.
Oh, huge.
And I guess when they round them up, they don't kill them. They want to try and sell them off and make make a profit off of their
They
hogs.
they do both. I mean, I'm not an expert on Texas and
Sure,
what they do in there,
sure.
but they definitely have a different view on how they deal with feral swine. I mean, they sell helicopter hunts. They go out and do hunts, guided hunts. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And it's got a money factor behind it for sure. And we used to have some of that here until we made it illegal to hunt
Right,
feral swine on
right.
public ground. I mean, there used to be advertised hunts on public land. So obviously that's gone away now since it's illegal to hunt feral swine on public lands.
Well, we really appreciate you coming in, Kevin, spending some time with us, getting us up to date on the feral hog situation. And I know you're going to be very busy over the next few months, so I wish you the very best out there. But let's hope that with our snowfall here, we can have a real good take here in the next maybe 20 days or so.
Yeah, I'll come back sometime maybe in the summer and do another update and kind of see where we end up mid-year. And I'm really expecting a lot of success with the helicopter with this snowfall right now. And we usually have a lot of good success whenever we've got snow on the ground, just because we can see down to the ground very well. So.
Well, again, if you have a question about feral hogs, if you have feral hogs or you see damage and you're not sure if it's feral hog damage, feel free to reach out to Kevin, 573-729-3196. That's the extension office. Leave a message. They get it to him. And because a lot of times, since he only talked about Richland and Donovan, there's a lot of areas out there you can't get a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of areas out there, even though I keep hearing from all these great cell companies that they've got 99% coverage in those areas. And I said, you are liars, because there's nothing out there, guys, nothing. But nonetheless, just kind of keep that in mind. Let them know. Don't try and do this on your own, guys. Don't try and do it on your own. These guys are professionals. They really know what they do. They really take the due diligence. And if you've got an issue, more than likely they're going to be able to help eliminate that issue for you, eradicate those hogs, get them off your property, and do so not one at a time, not two at a time, but 10 to 20 at a time, maybe even more. What's the largest take ever? Do you know off the top of your head?
In Missouri, it was at Peck Ranch, and that was probably 5 years ago, 52
52.
in one trap. We had a similar number out here out at Stone Hill at a private property out there when I first started. It was probably close to that same number.
Wow.
And if it wasn't 52, it's probably 48.
That's about as many as you can fit under a trap.
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's a 20-foot circle, so that's a lot of pigs in a 20-foot circle.
That's tight.
Yeah,
That's tight. Well, anyway, we do appreciate what you do, Kevin, and we also thank the Department of Conservation for helping with this, with our Denton County Extension, or I should say the Extension offices out of Missouri, to provide this service because, as Kevin's mentioned, and even I've talked about it, without this, these things that we have, these issues that we have, will get out of control. You know, this is a feral hog issue, but a lot of times we see the Department of Conservation, they find something that may be getting a little bit scarce, or maybe there's certain areas. I mean, even with the elk, they find somebody going and poach that elk. We don't want any of that stuff. We need to stay within the law, do what's right, and work with them. If you work with them, you're going to get a lot farther.
You know, I like what you said there, Stan. I'll just close with this, and this comes from my law enforcement days, between the two agencies I worked for, is do the right thing for the right reason.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. And that's kind of how I look at this program is, we're doing the right things for the right reasons.
Absolutely. So if you're a landowner, again, 573-729-3196. You can also drop by the Extension office. It is on Judicial Building. It's still early in the morning. Judicial Building, 5th Street. It's on the 2nd floor, but if you get there and you can't get up the steps, just contact them. They'll come down and talk to you about the issue, and then you can give them all the information you need, and then they'll get it to Kevin, and then the process begins. Thank you, my friend. Really
Thanks for
do
having me
appreciate
in.
you coming in.
Yep, thank you.
Here on KSMO Radio, your hometown radio station. We thank you for joining us on AM 1340, FM 95.7, and streaming with us at KSMORadio.com, KSMO Stream Facebook, and KSMO YouTube.